As I mentioned just a short while ago, we do have a lot to get to. So we are going to start with the beginning. This is the beginning of the rest of your life. Over and over, over and over.
We want the tea.
You can't handle the tea.
So our story continues. This is Emily's ex-girlfriend's ex-wife. This is who I have been speaking with. She has been giving me personal accounts of her interactions with Amber Lynn's girlfriend and how it kind of affected her marriage and her personal life. So she is going to be telling the remainder of her story here today, and we're going to lend an ear. The diabetic in the basement. I've seen other reaction channels use the girl's name. I'm tired of blurring it out. I mean, the girl's name gets used a lot. Tea spilled, whatever. Dib is Megan. Yeah. So, Megan. Megan is the woman in the basement. Megan is the ex-girlfriend of Amber Lynn's current girlfriend. And, yeah, that's who Megan is. Dib. So this is, again, from the ex-wife's accord. So they are in their 7-year itch. They said that they had been married for 7 years at this point, and it had started to get a little bit dry, got a little bit boring. Their marriage wasn't all that fun anymore. And they got into a fight one night, and the woman who was telling the story decides to move out and live with a woman who she had interest in and was talking to as well. So when I read this, I was like, oh, so like you were in another relationship too. You were talking to somebody else too. It's like Megan and Emily were a thing, but like you were also talking to somebody else too. She goes on to say,
Megan's not completely in the wrong. I am as well. I moved my stuff into that woman's house, and then I left for a weekend to go on a trip with my mom. Mind you, the place that we were going on a trip to was about 5.5 hours from where I lived.
So they got in a fight, and this woman goes to live with someone that she was talking to, someone that she was texting with, someone that she had interest in. And after that fight, and after she went to go move into that woman's house, she then went to a vacation 5 hours away with her mother. This is important. I know that this seems like a minute detail, but it comes up later. So because she moved into or went to go stay with the woman that she was with or whatever, and then went on vacation with her mom, Megan and Emily took that as ammunition to say, okay, well, look at you. You're a cheater. You're the reason why this relationship is ending. I don't want anything to do with you. So according to Megan at that point, this woman was a cheater. She goes on to say,
I did cheat in the aspect of speaking to another woman while in the marriage.
But she claims that she wasn't intimate with her. So it was like, well, yeah, we were talking and we had a fight and I went to go stay at her place. Megan took that as, oh, well, you cheated on me, so now we're done. But meanwhile, Megan and Emily at that point were already months into their secret affair. They were already months into picking up shifts together, hanging out, texting each other. So this woman feels that she kind of felt like there was a strain in the relationship and she was already showing interest for Emily. So she's like, well, maybe I should pursue other things too. She goes on to say, this trip wasn't the end of our relationship officially. It was just the start of the end. So I went on to say, so you moved in. So as the story goes, they got in a fight. She went to go stay with the woman that she was interested in. And then she went on vacation with her mom. So I said, okay, so you went on vacation with your mom and she used that as evidence that you were cheating. Okay. So of the 3 days, of the week that she was there, 3 days of it was out of state with her mom. So she got in a fight, and then that was kind of like all that they needed. It was like the camel that broke the straw's back. That's still not an excuse. She moved into someone else's home. Ma'am, that's cheating. Right. I suppose, we're not making excuses for her. The way that it went down is Megan and Emily had been talking to one another. They had been conversing with one another. They had been picking up shifts together. They had been texting, whatever. And the original relationship, were already in a rut. So she began talking to someone else too. And then I guess just like, if we're trying to see it from her perspective, it's like this woman was viewing Megan slip away from her fingers. Emily and her were basically, sneaking around, texting, doing all this stuff. But then as soon as this happened, they turned around and said, oh, well, you're a cheater. It's like, well, what were you guys doing the whole time? So, I mean, I'm not making an excuse for the author here, but I am saying that I think it's interesting that they were so quick to turn around after sneaking around themselves to point the finger at this woman and say, oh, well, you're a cheater. You're a cheater. Because according to her, this had already been a while into Megan and Emily sneaking around together. So at that point, she moved in with that woman, and she was there only a week. I don't think that she and that woman stayed together. I think it was kind of a very brief stint. Now we're going to look at this little email right here. So she had reached out to Megan. So I'm guessing what happened was she went to go stay with that woman after a fight. It didn't work out. And then she was trying to reach out to Megan. But at that point, Megan and Emily were pretty much an official couple. Megan was living with Emily, and she had no way of contacting her. She was blocked. She wasn't able to go to the apartment to get the cat. The only way that she could reach out to her was email. So she sent her an email, and then this is the email that Megan replied with. And this is interesting because this email was disclosed to me shortly after Amber Lynn put up that video, Megan is the basement chick. Yes, Megan is the basement chick. Shortly after the video of Amber Lynn reading a script. You remember when she came on here and she had everything written down and she was reading it word for word?
There have been some serious misrepresentations made in a recent video on...
When I was having a conversation with this woman and she said that she received this email, she told me or expressed to me that she feels that Megan didn't write this. She feels that this is not the way that Megan talks. This is not the way that Megan communicates. This is not the way that Megan would have responded to her. So the email that she received back from Megan reads this.
You need to stop contacting me. I'm not interested in talking to you in any way, shape, or form. I've moved on with my life. I'm extremely happy with the decision I've made to be with Emily. She makes me feel like I'm worth something in ways that you never could. You cheated, point blank, end of story. There's absolutely no way I could ever forgive you for that. Like I said, please stop contacting me.
So she receives this email from Megan's email. And she's kind of thinking that Emily was the one that wrote this. Emily was the one that kind of conducted this, orchestrated this, because Megan does not talk like this. Megan wouldn't have said something like this. So it's interesting because when we were watching the Tommy Rumors video and Amber Lynn was reading off of a script, a lot of people were saying,
this is 1,000% Tommy. This is Tommy. Emily. Sorry.
This doesn't seem like something Amber Lynn would say. This doesn't seem like something that Amber Lynn would write down and recite to us. Amber Lynn is always kind of open-ended, free
like a bird, maybe a pigeon.
hand speaker. She'll just come on here and she'll just kind of talk. And the excuse that she gave is she needed to get all of her thoughts put together in a concise format that she could read for us. It's interesting that there are now two suspicious examples of Emily allegedly telling people what to say. I think that, it's kind of been established that Emily is kind of a manipulative character this season. And it kind of seems like if she wants to take control, if she wants to take the power, if she wants to, do what she wants to do, she's going to go and do it. And at this point, she felt like Emily was so deep into Megan's ear that there's no way that they could have any sort of saving grace in terms of their marriage. Emily had already kind of intervened to the point where she was kind of speaking for Megan. Okay, so moving on. So I was trying to piece everything together. I mean, now after I've had this long conversation with her, I know pretty much the story pretty well. But at this point, when I was talking with her, I said, so I'm confused on the timeline here. Like, what's this all about? And so I said, so Emily and Megan were already taking night shifts together, flirting and spending time before you decided to move into that woman's house. And she said, yes. And again, I'm not making excuses for her. I'm not saying that this wasn't cheating, and she doesn't want to make excuses for herself either. But just laying out the facts here, Emily and Megan had already been in a relationship. They had already been sneaking around. They had already been texting. They had already been taking shifts together for some time. It was like, well, I mean, she's basically all but already with Emily. So it's like, well, she's talking to somebody else too. She says yes. That's kind of the way that she saw it. Emily was also brave to want to actually hang out with me and my wife together prior to her actually talking to Megan. She dug her way in, which is where it started to get fishy. And like Amber Lynn's videos, Emily likes gambling. She uses a different word here, but I have blurred that word out. Emily likes gambling. So the whole vlog of them going to the casino, apparently that's not a coincidence. Apparently that's not a coincidence. Emily enjoys her time at the casino. So, of course, Megan and me and Emily all went to the casino together. Well, it started with bingo. Then Emily wanted to go to gamble. So, I think it's interesting here how the precursor to them going to the casino was bingo. They all started going to bingo together. The married couple, and then Emily was the third wheel. So Emily as the third wheel going to bingo with them. She was interested in Megan, but she was kind of just like friends with the couple together. They all started going to bingo together, and then eventually that led into them going to the casino. Oh, I also went on to ask her why her stint, her fling, her whatever with that woman ended. And she said,
well, me talking to that other woman, it was something I didn't need at the time. I thought being with someone else would make my feelings about Emily and Megan go away, but it didn't. So I knew that I needed to heal. It wasn't right what I did to Megan at all, but what Emily and Megan did to me was not comparable. I'm big enough to admit that. Well, I used to be, but you get it.
And she means by this that she lost a lot of weight. She was in a very brief fling with the woman. It didn't last. It was kind of like a rebound. She communicates here that she feels that her stint, her fling, her whatever, with the other woman paled in comparison to what Emily and Megan were doing with each other. Emily and Megan were sneaking around. They were doing this together. So, I mean, again, I'm really not trying to stick up for this woman. I'm really not trying to take her side just because she's against Amber Lynn. I'm just telling the story as it is and how this woman felt. You can come to your own conclusions and how you personally feel on cheating.
Emily slithered her way into my marriage when it was in the rut. Then she eventually got the courage to just start talking to Megan.
So it started out as them being all friends. It was the author and Megan, the married couple, and Emily. They would go to bingo, they would go to the casino, they would hang out together. And then it got to the point where it was obvious that she was only interested in Megan. She had her sights on Megan.
Got the courage to start talking to her, and that's when they started to pick up the night shifts together.
That's when they deliberately started to plan their schedules together so that they would, work together and have more time alone.
That's what completely broke my relationship. I know it wouldn't have gotten to that point because Megan and I had talked about going to counseling, and Megan's dad even tried to help us look for a counselor. Like I said, it was too late for me. Emily was way too quick with that pull-up on Megan.
So she kind of feels that had Emily never came in, had Emily never, started to text Megan, express interest, things like this, they maybe could have gone to counseling. They maybe could have worked this out. They maybe could have met a different end than the one that was met. I also didn't include this in the original message, but I'll tell you guys now. Another thing that was enticing to Megan about wanting to get into a relationship with Emily was that she had a kid. Megan wanted a family. Megan really wanted, the whole family unit. She wanted a kid. She wanted this, she wanted that family unit. Our author was not in the cards for doing something like that. The fact that Emily had a kid and she kind of viewed Emily as something new, something fresh. She had a kid. She had that family unit secured. That was enticing to her. But I just wanted to throw that in there. Okay, moving on.
When Megan and Emily first started dating, they talked about everything.
They had very deep conversations. They were communicating a lot. I'd imagine that Megan was talking to Emily about how her marriage was crap, how it was failing, how she deserved better, etc. So it got to the point where they even discussed things like the sex life. They were talking about each other's intimate details. So when Megan went to go share that with Emily, Emily took that information and shared it with a whole bunch of other people that they knew collectively. Apparently, Emily's a gossip. Emily likes to run her mouth. Emily likes to chat too. So Emily went and told these personal details of their marriage and what went on in their marriage with other people that they knew.
Along with Emily sharing other personal information about me. Megan must have told her something along the lines that I cheated on her, and I feel that is Megan's and Emily's way of justifying that they are actually cheating.
Now again, come to your own conclusions. If you think that this person is a piece of shit, if you think that this woman is losing credibility based on what I have already told you, come to your own conclusion. She felt like their relationship was on the decline, and that's why she did what she did. Again, you come to your own conclusion of whether or not you can see her point of view, or if you just think that's an excuse.
Did I talk to another woman, and is that considered cheating? Yes. Was I picking up shifts and working night shifts to work with the said woman that I was speaking with? No. I wasn't texting the said woman every single day of every single hour like Megan and Emily were.
So she's kind of saying that it was two different things here, two different ball games. But as soon as they got a whiff of, oh, she's talking to another woman, oh, no, you cheated on me. But like they were having like a whole ass relationship together. So it's like, well, how are you going to call me a cheater if That's kind of what she's saying here.
Emily is eventually going to get Amber Lynn to isolate herself, not only from her audience or platform, but from friends and also family members, if it hasn't happened already. And then when Emily is done with her, Amber Lynn is going to have to rebuild those bridges that she burned with people that Emily made her isolate herself from.
This is someone not involved in girl world. This is someone that doesn't know Amber Lynn from anyone on the street. This is someone who really doesn't know our community well. So the fact that she's kind of saying this and we have already seen this play out, it's kind of like, yeah, Amber Lynn has isolated herself. She has isolated herself from friends and also family members. I mean, she says, oh, me and my mom are good. Me and my mom are best friends. I don't think her and her mom are as good and are as best friends as they were this time last year. I'll tell you that. I don't think that her and Alexis are friends anymore.
She'll be on her platform talking about everything that she endured with Emily. Emily will more than likely be sitting there diagnosing Amber Lynn, like she did with Megan, with new mental diagnoses because she's a psych nurse and she knows what she's talking about.
So, I guess that Emily was able to get into Megan's head. She was able to say things like, oh, well, you know, maybe you have this disorder. Maybe you have this. Oh, well, this is why I know what I'm talking about. I'm a psych nurse. I deal with this kind of stuff every day. So, knowing the emotional, psychological train wreck that is Amber Lynn Reed, I mean, the fact that she has a psych nurse girlfriend who can basically tell her anything and she'll eat it up and believe it.
I experienced BPD things.
The manipulation potential there is astronomical.
BPD.
Emily will use this against Amber Lynn, and Amber Lynn will have a mental breakdown to where she has to do some self-healing. I pray for the sake of Amber Lynn that she gets out of there before that happens.
So, this woman feels that Emily will eventually manipulate and play mind games with Amber Lynn to the point that Amber Lynn will, like, collapse. She'll have a breakdown, she'll burn out.
No!
It's not going to be a pretty ending. And trust me, it will end.
A couple months to a year, because Emily will kick her out and send her packing, like she did with everyone else. Amber Lynn will be on YouTube talking all about the trauma that she went through with Emily. And then she'll look back at what she had to say and realize how twisted Emily did make the story to be. But then Amber Lynn will have her own knowledge of how psychotic and how narcissistic Emily really is, truly and factually.
So she's kind of furthering her prediction here. She's saying that when this relationship ends within a few months to a year, this will all crash and burn, and Amber Lynn will come to YouTube and she'll have her own story to tell. Regret this. You are gonna regret this, Amber Lynn.
I've been waiting for the universe to do its job on Emily. It may have taken some time to get here, but karma is always fashionably late.
Again, she has communicated that Emily has caused her personal grief. Not only in her marriage with Megan, but prior to that, she has been a pain in her ass for many years in her life. So she has expressed wanting to get revenge. Amber Lynn has cited this want for revenge as her not being a credible person, or she just wants to do it to hurt her. She's not doing it because she wants to tell her side of the story or because she wants to be factual. She just wants to make Emily look like a bad person. Well, Amber Lynn, like you always say, two things can be true at once. I mean, based on everything that we've heard from this woman, Emily doesn't look too good.
Despite what information Amber Lynn's sharing, she doesn't know what led to that point of the night in the garage. I do, and a lot of it has to do with the things that I'm speaking about. Go insane more than she was already dealing with.
Remember, she was diabetic. When you don't have controlled diabetes or it's becoming worse, it can have mental side effects, in addition to other things that she was dealing with. She's kind of alluding here that she was dealing with other mental things.
It's scary.
She was dealing with mental things. She was dealing with the tumultuous relationship between her and Emily. She was dealing with, her diabetes that may or may not have been under control. Amber Lynn, this woman is saying, despite what you're saying and despite what she's telling you, There's two sides to every story, and you don't know everything that happened that led to the night in the garage with the weapon.
My ex-wife may have done some things, but Emily got her to that point.
Where have we heard this before? Where have we heard someone say, you know, she might not be a great person, but I don't think she'd do that. She's rough around the edges, but I mean, she would never do something like that. I mean, that sounds like the way that kind of, you know, friends or like associates would talk about one another. These people all knew each other very well. I mean, they were together for many years. They were all friends. They kind of grew up together, that kind of thing. So for her to say here, my ex-wife may have done some things, but Emily got her to that point. We heard this in last week's episode when we were talking to the bestie. You remember the bestie? The bestie was kind of giving her account of this kind of stuff. The bestie also said the same thing. She said, hey, listen, Megan's no saint by any means. But do I think that she would ever take it upon herself to have a weapon involved? No, she's not that kind of person.
I know my ex-wife and her actions were a reaction of what Emily was doing to her. It was kind of like psychological warfare, if you will.
So she kind of feels that Megan being in the environment of Emily's house was toxic.
Gossip train.
It contributed in the worst ways to what she was already going through. So I don't know if this was all a game to Emily. I don't know if Emily enjoyed pushing her buttons. I don't know if she just kind of liked screwing with her and getting a reaction out of her. But if that is something that Emily likes to do, if she enjoys messing with people, if she enjoys kind of seeing, like, provoking people to see how they'll react to certain things, I mean, that would be interesting with Amber Lynn. You say and do certain things to Amber Lynn, you're going to get a very interesting reaction, I'd imagine. So she's communicating here that Emily likes to play mind games. She likes to do this psychological warfare thing with
Mental things.
And then I asked her, I said, well, I mean, you know, do you have any more account about the psychological warfare? Do you have any more, you know, input on the mind games
Mental things.
that she played with Megan? And she goes on to say,
Well, there was one night that I know that she told Megan to go sleep in the basement because her snoring was so loud. And Megan
did. Megan went to the basement. She was a good submissive like she was meant to be. All right, your snoring's too loud. Get in the basement. I don't want to hear this anymore. I have to work tomorrow. I need some sleep. And after she went in the basement,
at like 2 or 3 a.m., Emily went downstairs and turned on every light, slamming all the doors, and yelled at Megan because she could still hear her upstairs.
Okay, so at this point, Megan was in the basement and Emily was upstairs sleeping. So from the upstairs to the basement, she could still hear her snoring. I mean, that must have been some siren level snoring. I have never heard of snoring that loud before, but apparently Megan's snoring was otherworldly. So she went downstairs, was just kind of like bitching at the fact that she had to hear that snoring. And then when Megan woke up and she kind of said like, oh, hey, like, what's going on? Like, you know, came to address and talk to Emily. Emily walked away and went back upstairs as if nothing happened. Threw a hissy fit, slammed a bunch of doors, turned on lights, and I went back upstairs and didn't say a word. Odd. So what we are about to get into now is what I am going to describe as the climax of tonight's live stream. I titled this live stream, The Basement Bites Back. And what we're about to look at is the basement biting back. All things considered, is this karma? I'm not sure. Somebody named themselves Jordy's curved thumb. Stupid!